Forget everything you know about money. It was never about math. A janitor died with $8 million. A Harvard-trained genius went bankrupt. Same numbers, same market, opposite endings. The difference wasn't intelligence, behavior. Money is a story we tell ourselves, and most of us never question it. Somewhere between fear and greed, we lost the plot completely. This is the psychology of money, the invisible forces behind every dollar decision. Tonight, we expose them one by one. No formulas, just human nature, stripped bare. By the end, you'll see your money differently. Let's begin where the myth started. Meet the fortune illusion. Two people, same choices, same effort. One builds an empire, the other loses everything. Risk and luck are cousins that never show ID. We only study the die that landed 6. Nobody studies the graveyard. We call this survivorship bias, and we build entire religions around the survivors. We copy their habits, their risks, their bets, but we can't copy their luck. That makes every guru a little dangerous. Their confidence becomes our blindfold. Nobody knows the true ratio, and honestly, that's the point. So respect what you cannot predict. Build slower than you think you should. Slow fortresses outlast golden towers. But surviving luck reveals a darker trap. Welcome to the enough trap. He already had more than he could spend, so he risked it all for more. Gone. The hardest skill in finance isn't earning, it's knowing when to stop. The goalposts move faster than the runner, because enough is never measured alone. It's measured against whoever stands next to you, which makes enough a rigged moving target. So draw your own line in advance, before the storm of temptation hits. Because enough isn't a number, it's a decision. Next, the compounding blindness. For years, it barely seems to grow. Patience feels boring, almost pointless. So most people quit right before the good part. But the mountain kept going without them. Most of the fortune is built in the last stretch. The final years dwarf every year before them. The secret ingredient was never the return rate. It was time. The wealthiest people aren't the smartest investors. They're simply the ones who refused to stop. And here's the dark twist. A single zero ends the entire story. It doesn't matter how many years you compounded, which means survival always outranks growth. Protect the snowball before you push it. This brings us to room for error. A bridge built for exactly the expected load collapses the moment reality disagrees. Real engineers overbuild on purpose, yet with money, we build for the average case. We forget to build for the worst one. A buffer isn't fear, it's freedom in disguise. Because options survive storms. Certainty doesn't. Now, tail events. Out of 1,000 decisions, most barely matter. One tree ends up feeding the entire forest. From inside it, this looks like constant failure. But being wrong often is normal, not broken. So plant many seeds, expect most to fail. Now, the freedom premium. We think money buys objects. Its real dividend is control over your own time. Without it, every morning belongs to someone else. And the chain is usually made of debt. Savings is quietly buying back your own hours. That's the highest form of wealth. Optionality. The ability to say no without fear. To a boss, a deal, a bad decision. Freedom is sleeping soundly during someone else's storm. Because time, unlike money, cannot be earned back. So many people defer their life indefinitely, waiting for a someday that never quite arrives. Today's freedom counts, not just retirements. Protect small pockets of it every single day. You can be rich and still not be free. If your spending always rises to match your income, you've built a very expensive treadmill. Freedom lives in the gap between income and desire. Widen that gap and you've widened your whole life. It's not a salary problem. It's a choice, one most people never even weigh. Every purchase whispers a tiny promise of status. Almost none of those promises survive contact with reality. Quiet wealth simply burns longer. This is a muscle, and it can be trained. Every time you resist, contentment grows a little stronger. Water it daily, and it becomes a fortress. A fortress no salary bump could ever buy. And from up there, the whole game looks different. The panic fades, clarity moves in. Markets crash. Free people barely flinch. Trapped people panic. The chain rattles with every dip. Same crash, completely different Tuesday. But even freedom hides its own paradox. The man in the car paradox. You buy a beautiful car to be noticed, and people do look at the car. The driver quietly disappears. Onlookers imagine themselves in it. Never you. So respect was never really the goal, was it? The real wish was to be seen, to be respected, and buying the object erased the very person. People respect people, rarely their possessions. Generosity, wisdom, consistency. That's what earns real respect. None of it requires an expensive engine. Spending to impress is wearing someone else's mask. Take it off. Nobody was really fooled anyway. They were always admiring the mask, not you. And that's an exhausting thing to keep polishing. Which brings us to the deepest secret of all. Wealth is what you don't see. The car you see is the car they bought. It's not the fortune they secretly chose not to spend. Real wealth sails past you, unnoticed every single day. It's income that was never converted into things. The modest house often outlasts the mansion next door, because appearance and substance were never the same thing. True wealth is often a private, hidden choice. Nobody claps for the purchase you didn't make, which leads to a strange idea: save without a reason. Not every dollar needs a job description. Life throws problems that never had a label either. A lost job, a broken pipe, a sudden diagnosis. The unlabeled jar absorbs what the labeled ones can't. Flexibility, not a plan, is the actual point. Now the twist that breaks every spreadsheet. The mathematically perfect plan you'll quit in 6 months. Loses to the reasonable plan you can actually stick with. Sustainable beats optimal, every single time. Your emotions aren't a flaw in the math. They're the variable the spreadsheet forgot to include. Paying off a small debt early feels irrational, until you feel the weight actually lift. Peace of mind is a return no chart shows. Design your money for the person you actually are, not the flawless spreadsheet ghost you'll never become. Yours will actually get crossed. Every dollar decision writes a sentence in a story, and most people never realize they're the author. Here's the trap almost nobody plans for. At 20, you plan for a person you'll never be. The goals you swore by quietly dissolve. New fears, new values, a completely different author. Rigid plans break against a person who keeps evolving. So build a plan that can bend without breaking. Avoid the extreme ends of every decision. The middle path survives every version of you, because past you, present you, and future you all deserve a vote. That's not indecision. That's compromise across a lifetime. You're already not the person who started this video. Next, the price tag nobody reads. Every gain in this game has a hidden fee. Volatility isn't a fine. It's the entry fee. Pay it gladly and the ride keeps running. Try to dodge the fee and you get thrown off. Fear, doubt, and panic were always part of the deal. Ride through the drops. They're not a malfunction. Jumping off mid-ride costs more than staying seated ever did. So fasten in. Don't flee at the first drop. Every ride like this eventually ends in sunrise. If you were still on it when it arrived, step back and every piece connects. Luck, enough, patience, fear, freedom, one single thread. It was never really about the money. It was always about who was holding the mirror. Money just gives that mirror unusually good lighting. Remember that dark chasm from the beginning? You can see the whole bridge now. This was never a lesson about money. It was a lesson in self-command. Your money story, your pen, nobody else's hand. The next page of your story is still blank. Write it deliberately, not by accident. Knowledge about money is cheap, everywhere, free even. Wisdom about yourself is rare. So go build a story worth being proud of. If this shifted something in you, subscribe. More stories like this one every single week. Knowledge is cheap. Wisdom is rare.